What's up, everyone? My good man George Dobell is joining me once again after quite the battle you had on your hands, George. Well, we're going to talk about a different battle now because of the coronavirus pandemic, and we're talking about the 100. I know you're writing about it, and there's a lot of doubt over whether it will happen or not. First things first, what's the latest? Because they haven't exactly called it off yet, have they?
No, they haven't. But we expect that announcement to be made on Friday morning, and there's no disgrace in that. You know, we're living in unique times, aren't we? And I think the ECB have decided that it would be a far from ideal time to try and launch a new competition. And there are lots of very sensible, practical reasons for that. You know, it'd be very difficult to get overseas players. We don't know if there's going to be any cricket at all, of course, do we? But particularly this competition, which is reliant upon the glamour of the best overseas players potentially. And we want to see full grounds. We want to see great ticket sales and all the razzmatazz that you would potentially create. It looks very, very difficult to do that. So it looks as if on Friday, if the ECB board agree on Thursday, that they will announce that that launch has been postponed for 12 months. And that seems to be a fairly sensible ploy at this tricky time.
And I mean, just having a look at your article now as well, and just seeing all the different reasons, all the different factors, really and truly, that the world, especially just cricket, has to sort out just to make a tournament like this go on, especially in its fledgling year. And I'm getting the feeling that you actually think that the 100 might not even happen at all. Dare I say?
I think that's a possibility. Yes. I mean, look, if I had said to you at Christmas that we'd be living in a time when people would be queuing for food and all the schools would be shut, you wouldn't have believed me. So we are living through unprecedented times. And if anyone thinks that a cricket tournament is immune to change, well, they're a buffoon, aren't they? So the issue with the 100 always was that the ECB had taken a huge risk with it. They had bet the farm on that tournament working. And although it's harsh to criticize them for not anticipating this specific pandemic, I actually think they let themselves be at risk of even some bad weather, because they've gone from a situation where they had reserves of something like 76 million 3 or 4 years ago to the stage where they've got, £8.50 and a bit of fluff in the bank now. So they've left themselves quite poorly prepared to deal with any emergency that the game faced. And it's facing an emergency, and I think that was poor, reckless management even. And the situation is such that the launch of the 100 is expensive, and I don't think anyone thinks that any business or sport is going to recover immediately. It's not going to snap back into place. So next year, when there's a new chairman of the ECB, of course, the game will have to decide whether it can afford to launch this new competition. And I'm not at all sure it will think it can. No, I don't think this is not the topic that is consuming the game right now. They've got more important, more immediate issues. So I am projecting. I am looking ahead, and it would be wrong to say that this is what everyone's talking about. But if you look ahead 12 months, the game is not suddenly going to be full of cash again. This is going to be a really tough few months. And they have to decide whether they need to spend this huge amount of money on this fairly high risk tournament. And I think that logic will dictate that they will review it. And if I was a betting man, I would say the chances of the 100 ever happening are slightly less than 50-50. But we'll see. No one can predict anything with a lot of certainty right now, hey? But as I say, the cost of the 100, even in good times, it was projected to make a loss. Okay, that's worth remembering. In its first 5 years. So in the first year, I think it was projected to make a loss of 7 million. In good times. Can they afford that? Now, they have to run a competition, but you should have to remember that the competition was, the TV deal, the broadcast deal, was originally sold as a new T20 competition, not as the 100.
Yep.
So they have some scope for introducing potentially a much lower cost, lower risk competition. And what I would suggest is a 4 or 5 nations tournament involving, Scotland and Ireland and the Netherlands and maybe Wales. Some controversy there, I know, and also an FA Cup style competition. And the reason that this is beneficial is that there's no marketing or very little marketing cost. There's very little setup cost. There's very little controversy. And I think that would be a lot cheaper to run than a new competition that no one was calling for and that we don't know whether it will work with new team entities and all the rest of it. And, I called around the counties in the last day or two. And while I say they're not consumed with this subject, they've got more immediate problems. There is quite a lot of sense that, the game just cannot afford to run this high risk, ego driven project.
All right. Well, we'll leave it at that. George Dobell, thank you so much. Always a pleasure.
Pleasure.
We'll continue bringing everybody all the developments as they are made right here on ESPN. Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.